Hello, and welcome back to a series of instructional videos for the Intopia simulation. This video will focus on the general model of the Intopia simulation and how it works. This will give you a basic overview of the game and most of the variables that are included in it. The Intopia simulation was developed a number of years ago by a couple of professors, mostly at Indiana. Intopia stands for International Operations, and really the whole game was about producing and marketing high technology products. Since that time, it's been adapted mostly by me and some other faculty members to focus on a number of different industries, either in Canada or North America or worldwide. The simulation has a number of really common variables to it. As you can see on the left-hand side of this slide, there's a number of inputs that each team has that goes into their home office, and that is, of course, starting capital or money, research and development activities, and general information that stems from market research or whatever general management picks up along the way through the game. The game is always centered around two products. For the sake of argument, we'll just call them X and Y, and a lot of times that's what you'll end up referring them to. The key difference, or the key thing about both products, is that both have a consumer market, or both can be sold as is to the consumer market. But product Y is a special sort of product in that X is a component of Y. So in other words, in order to produce Y, you need to have some X to go into it. And we'll talk about different ways that those can be done. In the game, there's three marketable areas: areas 1, 2, and 3, and those vary depending on the situation. In some single currency games, for example, those are just different areas within a single country. For instance, in the Canadian game, that's Eastern Canada, Western Canada, and Central Canada. In some of the more worldwide games, for instance, those might be China, North America, and Europe. Okay. There's several different versions of this game that we'll talk about as we go. In fact, here's a slide that looks at several of the different versions of the game that I've developed over the last couple of years. I think the most popular one, at least in the Canadian market, is the one on the hockey industry, where product X are the blades, or the little end of the stick, if you will, and then product Y is the stick, which is composed of the shaft and the blade put together. So obviously you can go into either market, either producing blades or producing sticks. And if you are producing sticks, you have to put some blades on them in order for them to work. And you can see that there's been a couple that have been developed for specifically for Newfoundland, and that's the oil and gas industry, where product X is crude oil, and then product Y is the refined oil. And again, you would need obviously crude oil in order to make refined oil. The choice of game depends on really the type of year and the type of program in which it's being run. Okay. Usually the hockey industry is run just in Canada, single currency. Oil is international, and the smartphone industry is international as well. Okay. In terms of different channels for sale, products X and Y can be sold to the end consumer market through a number of different channels. There are manufacturing agents that are in the game that are virtual. So really, if you're selling product X, really all you have to do is have some inventory and set a price, and these virtual agents will go to work for you, and they charge you a commission and will sell. The other things in the game are wholesalers, and those are teams in the game that decide to occupy that role. And we'll talk a little bit more about that role later on in a series of marketing. Either way, wholesalers or other teams can open up their own sales offices and use their own sales agents if they wish. Either way, the agents, the sales offices, are specific to the area, and they sell directly to the end consumer, whatever those may be. Okay. Typically, the market for Y is much, much larger than the market for X, so that really the only market that X producers have that is worthwhile is if they are selling directly to Y producers. So as you can see, by occupying any of these different production roles, there's a fair amount of intercompany transactions that are available. Okay. So getting started in the game, each person, of course, has home office operations. Now, home office is a separate area. It doesn't belong to areas 1, 2, or 3. It is a separate place. It has its own income statement, its own balance sheet, and its own operations. In home office, that's typically where research and development takes place, in whatever form that may be, and that's where the general management of the firm is located. The production areas and selling areas, areas 1, 2, and 3, again, those are separate operations. They'll have their own balance sheets, their own income statements, and that's where production occurs. Okay, so you can't sell anything out of the home office. So even if his home office is in St. John's, Newfoundland, you don't sell anything there. You sell in the other areas like Eastern Canada as a whole, Western Canada, say Area 2, and Central Canada, Area 3. Okay, home office is where you get your starting capital at the beginning of the game, and it's an explicit decision that you have to make to transfer to the areas. Now, you don't have to operate in all 3 areas. You could operate in one, or you could just stay in home office and do some other things. So in that respect, there are several different strategies that you may wish to explore. In some cases, you may decide that you want to be an area specialist. For instance, say Area 1 is Eastern Canada, and you've lived in Eastern Canada all your life, and you think that you're an expert there. You may decide to focus your entire operations in Eastern Canada and develop a knowledge of the market there and proceed accordingly. Alternatively, you may decide to be a product specialist, just focusing on product X, whatever that may be, developing it at the lowest possible cost, or perhaps developing the highest quality of that particular product and then selling it to the market, be that a B2B market or a business-to-consumer market. You may wish to be a wholesaler. Wholesalers deal with other teams in the game, buy their products, X and Y, and then sell them to the market. Wholesalers are necessarily more marketing efficient. Okay, so they have a brand per se, where they can sell more to the end consumer than, say, a company that doesn't have this special wholesaler status. Research and development is a very big function in this game, and there is an opportunity, if there's enough teams, for people to be an R&D specialist, just doing research and development to improve products X and Y, and then perhaps licensing those products or patents out to other teams that wish to produce them. Again, there is room, and there is the capability for you to lend money to other teams. If there's enough teams in the game, there might be room for a finance firm. In other words, somebody to operate as a bank. In any case, once the game gets going, there's lots of rooms for growth. You can vertically integrate across the supply chain. For instance, if you're an X producer, you may decide to start building Y plants and producing those, or adding a wholesale operation somewhere in your mix of strategies. The other thing that you may do is horizontally integrate. In other words, move across regions and open up in other areas. Those are certainly options for you. The Entopia experience is rich. It's an interesting game. There are about 950 variables involved. It is complex. That being said, it's not a zero-sum game. If one team is doing really, really well, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's at the expense of somebody else. So it is possible, and it has happened for the entire industry to be profitable. So don't worry too much about that. In as much as possible, the game deals with realistic situations. There are some situations where things in the game maybe appear unrealistic, like why does it take a truck an entire year to get across the country? But that's just the way it works, and those are the constraints of the game. Part of the richness of this game is how you deal with adversity. Unfortunately, you'll have to deal with other people in this game, and lots of times they make mistakes. And when they do, part of the richness of this game is how do you negotiate out of those mistakes? How do you deal with adversity as it comes? There may be changes in the environment. There may be strikes, plants blowing up, terrorist attacks, all that kind of fun thing. And those are meant to sort of mimic reality and see how you deal with those sorts of things. Let's face it, if strategy was a straight line all the time, there wouldn't be any fun in business at all, would there be? There's a couple of rules and constraints that happen in the game that you'll have to deal with, and those are specific to each game. But remember that above all else, it is just a game. And remember the 3 C's that Dawn Yakabuchi mentioned in one of her articles, Networks and Marketing: competition, cooperation, and conflict. Competition is good. It makes the marketplace better. Cooperation is better. It makes the marketplace more efficient. Conflict is not. We like the first 2 C's. We don't like the third one. Okay. Most of all, good luck. This is a rich experience. Have fun.